It's week 14, and I got my favorite bets and locks of the week. Let's break it down. Spread picks of the week. Give me Seattle -7 against the Falcons. Atlanta keeps outplaying teams and losing still, and that's the teams like the Jets, like last week. Got to be pretty deflating. They're not going to outplay Seattle. That Seahawks defense is elite, top tier. They're going to give Kirk Cousins, probably without Drake London again, all kinds of problems. They stopped the run very well, so I don't see Bijan doing much. They're going to be playing from behind. They're going to have to throw. And Seattle will get the offense back on track in this game. I think mainly with the run game. Charbonnet and Walker, watch out for that. I could see a huge win for Seattle. And the Raiders +7.5, yeah, you could say it's a little risky because the Raiders are pretty bad and the Broncos are pretty good. This is a lock for me because it feels like you have to bet it. Given the Broncos, I mean, it feels like every Broncos game is close, right? But if you look at every single one of their road games, which is this is a road game, they have been decided by 4 points or less, and this is a whopping 7.5 points. The last time they played, it stayed close. It's what the Broncos do. They play down to their competition. They keep the games close. It doesn't look pretty, and they pull away last second. Second game without Chip Kelly. Maybe the Raiders get some offense going. It's a really good matchup for Bowers, and that didn't really show in the first matchup because it was extremely windy. Geno couldn't do much, constantly pressured. Could be pressured a bit again, but I think the Raiders could keep this one close. If they don't, I feel like it's one of those, well, it was worth the shot because every road game for the Broncos was decided by 4 points or less, so it almost half to go with the Raiders on this one. And the lean picks, which have been really good this year, I'm feeling the Colts. It feels like everyone's feeling the Jags right now. It's because they're hot. The Colts are cold. I think that's not how you pick, right? The Colts are the better team here, and I think they go in a must-win situation to kind of get back on track. They go into Jacksonville and they pull it off. I feel like the offense will be able to move the ball. Daniel Jones won't be pressured a ton in this type of game. Jonathan Taylor versus a good run defense. I'm taking Jonathan Taylor. Their defense is also playing pretty well. Texans +3.5. They might have the Chiefs outmatched because they're the hotter team right now, but it's not all about that. The defense is unreal. The Chiefs are a little off. They're beat up at offensive tackle. That elite pass rush duo should get after Mahomes. I mean, the key against the Texans for the Chiefs is run the ball. They just don't want to run the football, though. Texans offense playing a little better. The Chiefs defense is much worse than it was in comparison to last year. And the Browns -3.5. Yeah, it's always tough taking the Browns, more than 3 points, right? Because they don't always win. It's always close. But a really good matchup at home in the cold against the Titans, a struggling Titans team. The Browns defense, one of the better ones in football, will create turnovers, will stop the Titans. And you can move the ball in Tennessee. I'm not really worried about the Browns running game here. I think it's going to really get going and they'll start to pull away. So I'm really feeling that one. Hard to call it a lock because it is the Browns at a 3.5 spread. But those are some games I also really like this week. Straight up locks, I'll take Seattle over the Falcons. Like I said, the Falcons are outplaying bad teams and losing to them. It's not going to happen against Seattle. The Bucks against the Saints. The Bucks were a little off last time I felt on offense. Last time I played the Saints, they still won big. The Saints are playing sloppy football right now. This is a time where the Bucks offense really gets going. They should pull away. Rams, I don't see them dropping 2 in a row. Even if they're a little sloppy in this game, I think they'll beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals play teams close sometimes, but they can't pull off the victory. The Rams should have no problem on both sides of the ball. And I'm leaning with the Browns. Again, it's bold saying the Browns are going to win. I can't call it a lock, but I'm really confident with them at home in the cold. The defense will do enough in this game. The offense just has to do a little bit, and I think they'll do that on the ground. So I'll take the Browns as a lean, straight-up pick. Favorite over-under picks of the week. Some unders here. The Falcons under 18.5. Again, they're down to Kirk Cousins. Probably no Drake London. They're playing that elite Seattle Seahawks defense. I don't think it's going to be pretty. So under 18.5. The Titans, yeah, it's a low line of 14.5 in Cleveland against that defense. I'll take my chances. If they end up getting over 14.5, good for them. I think they'll score 13 maximum in this game. The Eagles, the way, they could figure it out at any time. Everyone's thinking it, but the way that offense is playing right now, and the Chargers defense is better than what they've been playing. I just don't see how they score more than they could win the game, but it's going to be a low-scoring defensive game. I just don't see them getting over 3 touchdowns. Over 3 touchdowns. Commanders, Vikings, I'll go under 42.5 for now. If Jaden Daniels ends up playing, I probably pass on that. But at the same time, that Vikings defense is legit right now. It's kind of going unnoticed because they're losing. But the defense is playing better right now than it was earlier in the year. They're going to get pressure on whatever quarterback that is. The Commanders' run game hasn't been that spectacular this year either. And then we know the Vikings quarterback situation, which results in the offense being underwhelming. The Commanders' defense now being coached by Dan Quinn. He's calling the plays now since the last 2 games. It's been better, right? So 42.5 looks pretty good, the under. And I'll go with the Raiders over 15.5. I think they get a little more offense going. I think Bowers gets going. It's a little bold, maybe against a great Broncos defense. I wasn't thrilled with the tackling of the Broncos defense last week. Now they're going on the road to play the Raiders for a second time. I think they'll just get over that 15.5 points. So those are some total picks that I'm going to take a shot on this week. 2 game parlays that I like. The first one is my favorite. I'll take the Browns money line. We talked about how I'm confident with that game, even if it stays close. Throughout this video, we talked about that. Seattle minus 3.5. You bump that down, win by more than a field goal. I feel pretty good about that. The odds are not bad at all on that, surprisingly. And I had the Colts beating the Jags, but yeah, a lot of people picking the Jags. Game could go either way. I think that's got to stay close. So the Colts at plus 3.5. So the opposite of Seattle there. Pretty good odds just for 3 games. And then just 4 teams at the same adjusted line. Buccaneers minus 2.5. They should be a lock to win. The Bills minus 2.5. I think the Bills are the gamble of this 4-pick parlay here. Bills against the Bengals, but James Cook's going to run wild on them. They're at home. Must win for both teams, and they'll take care of business. The Ravens against the Steelers at home. They're not going to turn it over a ton this week. They're looking to bounce back. They'll get the job done. Steelers are really cold. And the Rams should take, even if it ends up a little closer than expected, I think bottom line, a field goal victory for the Rams there. So that's a good 4-game parlay. Originally, it was going to have those 4 money line plus the Packers money line. Bears games are really weird this year, so I prefer to bump these up to 2.5 and go with the 4-leg parlay. But I do really like that first one because I'm confident with the Browns winning. Can't say it's an absolute lock. I'm confident with Seattle covering 7, so they should cover 3.5. In the Colts, I'm oddly confident with them winning, but it's a little up in the air. They're playing a little colder right now. 3.5, I feel pretty good about that. So that's a good 3-game parlay there. Some really solid touchdown picks this week. James Cook is going to run all over the Bengals. He might score a long touchdown run. He might score multiple touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs tonight against the Cowboys. Just a little bit different of a running back that they've seen in a bit. That's the Lions' key. They just can't get down huge right away. I don't think they will. Gibbs, he'll have an opportunity to score on the ground and through the air, of course. Josh Jacobs scores most weeks going against the Bears. Bears are getting a little better in the secondary, a little healthier. I think the key will be for the Packers to pound the ball, kind of try to expose those the banged up linebackers. Judkins is the key for the Browns to beat the Titans. The defense will do its job. Someone's got to score. Running backs have scored on the Titans this year. They're using Judkins a bit more in Wildcat, so that kind of just doubles his chances in a way. Maybe not exactly doubles, but I feel like he'll get in maybe more than once. And Devontae Adams, he scores every week. You keep thinking teams are going to game plan for it. And they don't. They can't figure it out. Keep rolling with him until even after it's stopped. I mean, he's probably going to start scoring again. Plus options, good matchup for Brock Bowers. Broncos are allowing like the 3rd most yards per attempt to tight ends. And I feel like the Raiders got to take advantage of that, and that's their best player as it is. Last time it didn't work out because it was so damn windy in that game. I think this time indoor, it's going to be a Bowers fest. George Pickens tonight. Either him or CeeDee Lamb's going to score. I'm leaning with Pickens against that man coverage of the Lions. Lamb, they're both good against man and zone, but Lamb, more of a zone guy in the slot. Pickens, I like his chances. He could beat man without separating, right? He could separate against man, and he can catch it over the top of somebody at the same time, contest the catch situation. So, Lions a little banged up in the secondary. Pickens has been going crazy. I like that. Zach Charbonnet, either he or Walker will score. I'm going to lean Charbonnet. He's been more the touchdown scorer. He's getting more carries near the goal line in the red zone going against the Falcons. Maybe Seattle's passing the ball a little too much, allowing pressure on Darnold. The key is running the ball on the Falcons. They'll do that. Dalton Kincaid, if he plays, I'm expecting him to come back and play. The Bengals have been pretty brutal, the worst in football by far, actually, allowing tight ends to score touchdowns. Kincaid seems like the best Bills option, and they've missed him in recent weeks. And Tyler Warren against the Jags are cleaning up a little bit on defense and against tight ends, but most of the year they've been pretty brutal against tight ends as well. I could see Warren finding the end zone. Some good plus options this week. Those most likely scorers feel like locks as well, especially the running back. So some good options to straight bet, or if you want to put together a parlay using some of these, it's a good week to do it, in my opinion. It's conference championship week, and I like the Bulldogs -1.5 against Alabama. I see some spots have it 2.5. I like it there as well. It's a little tricky because last time Alabama in Georgia beat the Bulldogs, but since then, around that time, I'm like, is Georgia that good? They're kind of getting lucky escaping these teams, and they're not playing well for 4 quarters, and Bama looks real good. Now at the end of the year, I'm like, all right, Georgia's actually good. They've gotten a lot better than they were earlier in the year. And Bama, they're the ones barely. They got a little lucky against Auburn. They're barely escaping. They lost to Oklahoma at home. Georgia's gotten better on both sides of the ball. I mean, they couldn't really get any pressure on teams earlier in the year. That's changed a little bit. Still not that classic Georgia front, but they're playing better on offense. So I like Georgia to win this time. And it's always hard to beat teams twice, especially in college football. I like Georgia to win, and I could actually see them winning by a decent amount as well. And this line is low. It's because Bama won in Georgia the last time, so that kind of makes sense. Some other games I kind of like. We're going to work on a parlay for Patreon and X members as well. We got some small schools playing earlier in the week. I always like going Miami, Ohio. I like that North Texas team as well. So those are some options. But give me the Bulldogs this week. Maybe the under on the Texas Tech BYU game's not bad. Texas Tech could win big in that game again. But BYU, it's a must-win to get in the playoff. Texas Tech might be in even if they lose. So that could make things a little interesting. But Indiana, Ohio State, I really don't even know. Like, you at first glance, it's like Ohio State, right? It's the best team in the country. Indiana's pretty damn good, though. But you look at Ohio State, they really weren't. You don't really notice it until you look at the schedule. They weren't really tested by other really good Big Ten teams. The best Big Ten team they faced was Michigan. Yeah, they finally handled them, but they didn't have to play Indiana, Oregon. Iowa's sneaky good. So is this just that much more of a test? You look at Indiana, they beat the hell out of some bad teams, and then they were kind of close with Iowa. They were kind of close with Penn State, so that makes you wonder if they play Ohio State, they just not play as well. But then you look at the Oregon game, they played Oregon pretty damn well, so you're a little all over the place with the Indiana-Oregon game, or Indiana-Ohio State game, excuse me. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy that one and see what happens, see who ends up with that number 1 overall seed in the college football playoffs. So there you have it. Got Georgia there. Some good NFL picks this week. We'll see if it all works out. That will do it. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Like, subscribe to notifications on. Goodbye.